Anyway, it is 18 January. It's Sunday. I'm Charlie Garrett, and this is the CG Prophecy Report. Many words, more action. That and a lot of other things to go over on today's report. All right, we got some news from Israel today. We got from All Israel, Tehran citizens speak out. And I got another news article this morning which confirms this. Iranians don't trust Trump. Netanyahu is most popular here. And so you wouldn't expect that in Iran. But the Iranian people actually love the Israelite community. The problem is that the government doesn't like them. And when the old government was in under the Shah, they had great relationships with Israel. But when that got separated and the Ayatollahs and the radical Islamists took over, that all ended. But the people still love Israel for the most part. They're not happy with Trump. And like I said, I saw an article this morning that it confirmed that again because of the past week. But, you know, people think that he can come in and just save the whole world, and that's not realistic. He's trying to balance things out without causing a worse problem. If he could go in and take care of Iran, guess what he would do? He would go in and he would take care of Iran. But with the situation the way it was, he had hoped that things would be more favorable for him either to take action or to stand back and let the people take over. Neither one would play out properly. And so they're not really happy with him, but that's life. Netanyahu is currently the most popular person in Iran. People here have fallen in love with him. People don't trust America or Trump, but they strongly believe in and love the Israelis. Speaking under the alias Arash, he explains that Iranians were impressed by the Israeli strikes during Operation Rising Lion, which only targeted the regime's infrastructure and did not harm civilians. By contrast, he notes that the people are mostly afraid of the U.S. having seen the outcome of what happened in countries where American forces intervened, such as Afghanistan and Iraq. Wherever they went, they brought nothing but destruction. And that's what Trump is trying to avoid right now. He's trying to avoid a level of destruction which is counterproductive to taking care of the people. Arash, an opponent of the regime, took part in one of the protests. Though he is not Jewish, in the interview he called a few words that he learned in classes offered by the local Jewish community that he attended in the past. So there you go with that. From the Times of Israel, with new trade restrictions, Spain looks to trigger EU cascade against Israel. Spain and Israel have not had great relations in the recent past, and it's not going to get better as long as the socialist government is in power. But he's trying to get the other governments in the EU to follow suit and to become more hostile toward Israel. When Spain began blocking Israeli products imported from the West Bank, Golan Heights in East Jerusalem, it officially kicked off what may be the largest state-level embargo of products and services from the Jewish state since the Arab League boycott launched around the time of Israel's inception. While the ban on those products and other measures are not expected to significantly impact Israel's economy or its $850 million in annual exports to Spain, they do give a symbolic message that may encourage other countries to pursue similar trade boycotts with the Jewish state in the future. When a country of considerable size like Spain advances a move like this, it gives backing to smaller states to follow suit. So there you go with that. From the Jerusalem Post, the vast majority of Israelis are worried about declining U.S. support for Israel. It's something that everybody should be concerned about at this point. The poll of 1,000 Jewish Israeli adults conducted on December 11th comes amid a notable decline in support for Israel across the American political spectrum over the course of the war in Gaza. In September, a poll conducted by the New York Times and Siena University found that for the first time, American voters sympathized more with Palestinians than Israelis. While support for Israel has long been a hallmark of the Republican Party, a June poll also found that sympathy for Israelis had dropped within the GOP over the previous year. Among younger Republicans, criticism of U.S. support for Israel has risen in the wake of the Gaza war alongside a growth of anti-Semitic influence, raising alarm among Jewish GOP leadership. The June poll also found that sympathy for Israelis among Democrats had dropped to just 12%, while 60% sympathized more with Palestinians. So we're seeing a lot of blowback from people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, and their stand is unreasonable from a biblical perspective. But they don't know that because they are not well educated in Scripture. And I would love to meet one of the two of them and just sit down and have a one-on-one and challenge them on their theology, not on what they think about these conspiracies and all that, because you're not going to change anybody's mind with conspiracies. If they think that, what's some, whatever it is. Yeah. People, when they've got a conspiracy in their head, that is going to stick unless they just are willing to say, this is just kind of nutty. But as far as theology itself, they are way, way off on what God intends for the people of Israel. From the Times of Israel, United Nations Rights Office accuses Israel of West Bank apartheid. Now, listen to the thinking here. The UN said decades of discrimination and segregation of Palestinians by Israel in the West Bank were intensifying and called on the country to end its apartheid system. The UN Rights Office said the systematic discrimination against Palestinians had drastically deteriorated in recent years. There's a systematic asphyxiation of the rights of Palestinians in the West Bank. Now, all of that is disputed territory. They have their area, Israel has their area, and then there are the more disputed areas. But the things that belong definitely to Israel or to, we'll just say the non-Israeli Palestinians that are there, they put up a wall. Why do they do that? Why does Israel have all these big walls there? Anybody tell me why? Because if they don't have them, they're going to get exploded on buses the way that happened many, many times in the past. They go in there and they kill a lot of Israelis. You can call it whatever you want. You can use whatever, word you want, including apartheid. But the fact is that those people do not want a Jewish state. They have a policy of killing any Jew anytime and being paid for it. If they're martyred for it, then the family is taken care of. You can't deal with people like that. There's no dealing with that type of thinking. When they have a call from the river to the sea, even if the world doesn't understand what that means, it means that every inch of that land is going to be theirs and there's not going to be one Jew left in it. This is their policy. So for the UN to come out and to have this type of a dislike of Israeli policies is so one-sided that it's almost beyond imagination. Whether accessing water, school, rushing to hospital, visiting family or friends, or harvesting olives, every aspect of life for Palestinians in the West Bank is controlled and curtailed by Israel's discriminatory laws, policies, and practices. When you are being threatened every day of your existence with being put out of existence, you have to take actions. Okay? If these people said, we are not going to do any more harm to these people ever again, Israel could say, well, we'll test this for a couple of years and see. And, they're not willing to do that for 10 minutes. Okay? This is a particularly severe form of racial discrimination and segregation. I hate to tell them, but for the most part, they're the same race of people. Okay, they're from the sons of Shem. So they all descend from the same general line of Noah. So I don't know how that can be racial discrimination. Israel allows into its country blacks from Somalia. They allow in people from every culture around the world. Chinese Jews, they have Jews that have come from India. They've got every culture you can name on that planet there. They're not discriminatory by race at all. They are probably the least discriminatory society on this planet. Probably. America was, and that's becoming, it's going by the wayside because the left wants it that way. But the fact is that Israel allows anybody into their nation as long as they meet the qualifications of their nation. That resembles apartheid systems that we've seen before, et cetera, et cetera. Irish Times, Ireland joins 6 other European countries in condemning new Israeli aid laws. Times of Israel, New York City Jews targeted in hate crimes more than all other groups combined in 2025, says the New York Police Department. So there you go. I mean, things are not going well for Israel here. They're working actively to bring people back to Israel. Unfortunately, and every time I think of this, I think how great it is that they are moving back to Israel because it's fulfilling prophecy, until I think of what it says in the book of Zechariah, and I almost want to start crying, is that it says 2/3 of the people of Israel are going to be exterminated before those terrible times are over. They're going to be at the end of themselves before they come to their senses and say, we missed something. And actually, that's being prefigured in, I've just finished chapter 16 of Matthew today. So that means we're going to start with, 17:1, my typing, but we're starting with chapter 16 tomorrow as far as going through it. And I can tell you the typology of Matthew chapter 16, Matthew 15 was great. Go read the commentary today. But Matthew 16 is amazing. What that is actually picturing for the world. So that'll be out in 28 days or whatever, whenever that gets published, because I'm like a month ahead. And the reason why I do that, same thing with the sermons. One, I want to know what's going on way in advance of where I am posting, because I can say, oh, I was kind of wrong on this analysis, and I can go back and adapt it. But as much as anything, if I keel over and I have to go to the hospital for a month, I got enough sermons to last you guys forever. You can have Ron come up here or somebody read them. We can import Tom from Ohio, and he can come down here and read the sermons for the next 3 months. Same thing with the daily commentaries. I got lots of them. I do that on purpose because, you got to be prepared in life. Got some news from Christianity. From Crosswalk, China arrests 100 house church members, offers cash rewards for their capture. So they don't want house churches. House churches are like the way it was, around the world. Anywhere there's persecution, even at the very beginning of the church, people had their churches in their homes, or they had them in little places, and they did that because they wanted to worship freely. In China, there is no freedom of worship, none that is allowed by the government. They have churches, and they are fully regulated by the Chinese government. If they have a church outside of that system, they are now targets to be arrested and who knows what. They have disappeared pastors in the past. A new wave of crackdowns on house churches in China has led to the arrests of dozens of Christians, with authorities even offering cash rewards for information leading to their capture. The crackdown included checkpoints. That sounds like that guy, Smith, the prosecutor of Trump. He apparently this last week I read an article where he paid somebody $20,000 to get them information on Trump without knowing any information. In other words, they were soliciting finding goods on people instead of having cases and then working. They're doing it backwards. Okay, so they're kind of doing the same thing here in China. But they're the same general party, so that's expected. The crackdown included checkpoints, police patrols, and cash rewards being posted for the capture of house church leaders. Christianity in China generally takes shape in two different settings: government-approved churches and unregistered house churches. Legal churches are allowed to operate openly, but must register with state-run religious bodies and accept ongoing oversight, including limits on preaching, leadership appointments, and children's participation. It's all run by the government. For example, and this is what the Catholic Church did some years ago, is they caved and they allowed China to select the bishops and the cardinals within the country. The Catholic Church could not select their own. That tells you how far away from reality the Catholic Church has become, where they allow the government of China to select their leadership. For example, individuals under 18 were prohibited from attending Christmas services. Sermons and lessons in government-approved churches must align with teaching and church life with CCP rules. Because of this, millions of Christians in China worship in house churches which meet without official approval, often in homes or secret gathering places, and are therefore vulnerable to raids, fines, and arrests, especially when authorities view them as growing too large or influential. Can't have that. The Chinese government, led and controlled by the CCP, considers Christianity a threat to states' authority. Well, they've never read the book of Romans, or they'd say, oh, well, these people are here to help our government and to pray for us. But consequently, it wages an intense campaign of persecution against house churches that aren't part of the state-led religious bodies. The recent arrests follow months of mounting pressure on Chinese Christians as local officials have increasingly targeted house church leaders, ICC said. Authorities have pushed to reshape church life by mandating the display of communist imagery, stripping away traditional Christian symbols such as crosses, and enforcing communist-driven education policies. It's all going on right now in the world, and most people in America just couldn't care. Nigerians are being slaughtered by the thousands, more just in the past 24 hours, and the mainstream media will never report on it. And unfortunately, most Christian services won't report on it either. When I say Christian, I'm saying that are aligned with that value, like Breitbart and all that. They may not, but Gateway Pundit does. He highlights these things. A few others do, but it's kind of quiet other than that. Christian Times, Christians harassed, attacked all over India at Christmas time. So that's just coming out now is that, and we got several families, people in general that attend from India online, or they watch later and they email me from time to time, and they've never complained about that to me. But there are certain parts of India that are really, really being harassed by the government, by other people, groups within there, and they just have to live with it. We get some news from the Mideast and Africa today from All Israel. When we were in trouble, Palestine did not protect us. Azerbaijan says it will not send soldiers to Gaza Stabilization Force. So it's kind of interesting. It's another Muslim nation, and they're not going to help with it. But more than that, Azerbaijan and Israel have had very close relations. They're not going to be a part of this. I read a few articles this morning talking about this stabilization force, and what's going on is that apparently Trump has appointed some people and asked some nations to join in this, like Turkey and Qatar, that really has Israel miffed. Okay, they're really miffed. Apparently Netanyahu was not consulted in this. And actually, I think that's a smart move on Trump's part because it removes Israel from the equation, and it allows them to open. It would never work with Israel involved with their fingers in it. It wouldn't do it. Okay. Trump probably realized that if we have them participating in this, these other nations are going to go ballistic. In the end, it's going to be what it's going to be. And I understand Israel's being upset about that. But if you think of it from a further out perspective, it's probably better what he did, because then they can't say, oh, well, Israel prompted this or whatever, and then the blame go back to them. This is being done separately. So we'll see how it pans out. But Azerbaijan's President Aliyev said that his country has no intention of sending troops to participate in Gaza ISF. Aliyev said that his government had been in contact with the administration of President Trump regarding joining the ISF. We prepared a questionnaire of more than 20 questions and provided it to the American side, Aliyev said. So this is a country that's actually doing something. They're questioning, what about this and what about this? And is this going to be beneficial for us? That's what governments are supposed to do. No participation in peacekeeping forces is envisaged. I'm not considering participation in hostilities outside Azerbaijan at all. Aliyev went further, saying that the Palestinians have not been particularly supportive of Azerbaijan in the past, despite Azerbaijani support for the Palestinian cause. When we were in trouble, we were left to our own fate. No one protected us. Furthermore, with all due respect and sympathy for Palestine, Palestine did not especially protect us either. Israel supported Azerbaijan by selling weapons to the country during its conflict with Armenia, a position which drew some criticism from the Israeli public, which is largely sympathetic to the Armenians due to the Armenian genocide at the hands of the Ottoman Turks. So you got all this going on. The world is, a powder keg on any given day, and Israel has to make its decisions, what it's going to do and why they're going to do it. And they were happy with that. And now it has come back to bless them in a small way. Badlands. Israel, Syria, and the U.S. established joint communications cell for intelligence and de-escalation. Israel, Syria, and the United States, all in this cell. This is kind of interesting. Israel, Syria, and the U.S. have agreed to establish a joint communications cell for intelligence sharing, military de-escalation, diplomatic engagement, and commercial coordination. The agreement followed meetings with senior Israeli and Syrian officials in Paris and confirmed that the U.S. will supervise the mechanism, which is intended to address disputes quickly and prevent misunderstandings. Officials also agreed to begin discussions between Jerusalem and Damascus on civilian matters, medicine, energy, and agriculture. The communication cell is designed as a standing channel to manage sensitive exchanges, coordinate security messaging, facilitate diplomatic follow-up, and explore commercial issues under U.S. oversight. So that's kind of exciting. They need Syria in order to defend themselves from Iran. So there you go. From I-24, Syria open to Israeli liaison office in Damascus. Times of Israel. Israel and Syria agree on mechanism to share intelligence and seek economic ties. So we got all kinds of things going on with Syria and Israel, including the U.S. and some of it. From the post-millennial, Trump posts chart proving that 72% of U.S. Somali households are on welfare. And the agreement was if you come to the United States, you will be self-sufficient. And none of them are. It's just very few. Other groups shown with high welfare participation rates include households from Bhutan, Yemen, Afghanistan, Iraq, and several African, Middle Eastern, and Caribbean nations. And they come here, they say that they'll get a job, they'll be employed, and they don't. They're not self-sufficient, and so we have to pick up the tab for them. And that'll continue into the next generation and the next. Once you're on that type of thing, it's very rare for people to leave that. And we have people here, probably 5 or 6 sitting here right now and more that come on Thursday that will tell you, we go down to the projects every week of our life. And there are 4th and 5th generations in a single house that have all never left the projects. They went to school here, they go back, and then they stay there the rest of their life. They never leave that environment. And, it's sad because they are in their own type of slavery without realizing that they are slaves. Yes. And it's contented slavery is what I would call it. From Fox, Hochul orders New York landmarks, including, now think of the irony of this, One World Trade Center lit green for Muslim American Heritage Month.
How stupid.
Zero Hedge. They helped us build a building, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Zero Hedge, 40% of all babies born in Vienna, 40% of babies born in Vienna do not have an Austrian passport. Zero Hedge, demographic time bomb, 7 million Syrians could arrive in Germany within 50 years due to family reunification. So not only are they letting them in, but once they're in, they have the policy where you can now reunify with your family, bringing the entire set of families in. That's national suicide. Anyway, Iranian intel, Iran's currency slides to new low. Dollar at 1.47 million rials. And I bet you since that came out a couple days ago, they're probably even higher. They are completely tanked in their economy. The only way to stop people from being uncontented with the government is to shoot them. Because other than that, the people have nothing and they are literally surviving on subsistence. So from Archiva, Palestinian embassy, a country that doesn't exist, Palestinian embassy opens in London after UK recognition. Mongolia. Dunk to the top. Abu Robocan 2025 is in Mongolia. Abu Robocan, they make robots that can dunk, and they see who makes the best dunkers. Students from around the world gathered in Mongolia for Abu Robocan 2025, competing with handmade robots in a basketball tournament where robots dribble, pass, shoot, and even slam dunk. Daniel 12 Technology today. Speaking of robots, from Fox, robots learn 1,000 tasks in one day from a single demonstration. Okay, this is unprecedented. And we're not talking about robots that look like you and me. It may be an arm, whatever, but listen, this is great. Most robot headlines follow a familiar script. A machine masters one narrow trick in a controlled lab. Then comes the bold promise that everything is about to change. We have heard about robots taking over since science fiction began. Yet, real-life robots still struggle with basic flexibility. This time felt different. A report in Science Robotics caught our attention because the results feel genuinely meaningful, impressive, and a little unsettling in the best way. The research comes from a team of academic scientists working in robotics in AI, and it tackles one of the field's biggest limitations. The researchers taught a robot to learn 1,000 different physical tasks in a single day using just one demonstration per task. These were not small variations of the same movement. The tasks included placing, folding, inserting, gripping, and manipulating everyday objects in the real world. For robotics, that is a big deal. Until now, teaching robots physical tasks has been painfully inefficient. Even simple actions often require hundreds or thousands of demonstrations. Engineers must collect massive data sets and fine-tune systems behind the scenes. That is why most factory robots repeat one motion endlessly and fail as soon as conditions change. Humans learn differently. If someone shows you how to do something once or twice, or in Charlie Garrett's case, 4 times, you can usually figure it out. That gap between human learning and robot learning has held robotics back for decades. The breakthrough comes from a smarter way of teaching robots to learn from demonstrations. Instead of memorizing entire movements, the system breaks tasks into simpler phases. One phase focuses on aligning with the object. The other handles the interaction itself. This method relies on AI, specifically an AI technique called imitation learning that allows robots to learn physical tasks from human demonstrations. The robot then reuses knowledge from previous tasks and applies it to new ones. This retrieval-based approach allows the system to generalize rather than start from scratch each time. Using this method, called multitask trajectory transfer, the researchers trained a real robot arm on 1,000 distinct everyday tasks in under 24 hours of human demonstration time. This was not done in a simulation. It happened in the real world with real objects, real mistakes, and real constraints. Many robotics papers look impressive on paper, but fall apart outside perfect lab conditions. This one stands out because it tested the system through thousands of real-world rollouts. The robot also showed it could handle new object instances it had never seen before. That ability to generalize is what robots have been missing. It is the difference between a machine that repeats and one that adapts. By decomposing tasks and reusing knowledge, the system achieved an order of magnitude improvement in data efficiency compared to traditional approaches. Faster learning changes everything. If robots need less data and less programming, they become cheaper and more flexible. That opens the door to robots working outside tightly controlled environments. In the long run, this could enable home robots to learn new tasks from simple demonstrations instead of specialist code. It has also major implications for healthcare, logistics, and manufacturing. We are moving away from flashy tricks and towards systems that learn in a more human-like way. Kind of cool. Okay, it's a dangerous world here. Revelation plagues. From Fox, deadly superbug is spreading across the U.S. as drug resistance grows, researchers warn. I first reported on this about 8 years ago, and there were like 2 cases in the whole world, okay? And every year I've brought it up again. Here's what it says. Candida auris, often described as superbug fungus, is spreading globally and increasingly resisting human immune systems. Approximately 7,000 cases were identified across dozens of states in 2025, and it has reportedly been identified in at least 60 countries. So we've gone from literally a handful about 8 or 10 years ago when I first reported on it. We're at 7,000 cases right now. Most of this, I am certain, comes from one issue alone. People taking antibiotics and not finishing the course, or taking antibiotics that they are not prescribed. Just, Mom, do you have any antibiotics? And they take them, and these things then develop immunities because they have not been fully killed. And so they mutate, they get stronger, etc. And that's a real problem. If you are given antibiotics, you want to make sure you take exactly what they tell you, when they tell you, and finish the entire course. Because if any of that is residual in you that hasn't been killed, it will mutate in your body and it will become harder to antibiotic to death later. They'll have to get a bigger course, et cetera, et cetera. Pretty soon you're in a hospital and you've got antibiotic IVs in you, and that's the only way they can take care of this. And this is almost uncurable at this point. So do what you want with your antibiotics, but I would recommend you take exactly what you're told and nothing more. And if you don't need them, don't take them. From Just the News. Stunning. HHS slashes vaccine schedule as CDC promotes COVID vaccine over natural immunity. So HHS is saying one thing and CDC is going and doing exactly the opposite. The January 2 scientific assessment by acting director of the FDA's Center for Drug Evaluation and Research and HHS chief science and data officer denounces the de facto denial of infection-acquired immunity in earlier COVID vaccine mandates, which lacked scientific rationale. Their report, prepared in consultation with unnamed experts at the CDC, FDA, NIH, and CMMS, specifically singles out false CDC claims that vaccine-acquired immunity was superior to infection-acquired immunity, undermining, if not directly contradicting, recently reaffirmed CDC claims. So nobody can agree on what's going on because there is an agenda here. And I love to bring this up. I remind you from time to time that when President Trump won the first time, back when he was number 45, that day when he was elected on election day, everybody at the CDC was crying in the hallways. They were weeping because their agenda was now going to start being affected. This is not science. This is an agenda, and they've been pushing it for years. From The Guardian, people who stop taking weight loss jabs regain weight in under 2 years. Analysis finds those who stopped using medication saw the weight return 4 times faster compared with other weight loss plans. Morality, Breitbart. 41% of Netflix shows for children, 41% of Netflix shows for children contain LGBTQ plus content. From the Post-Millennial, federal workers sue Trump admin over cutting insurance coverage for sex changes. Breitbart, 2 Colorado hospitals stopped sex change drugs for minors, citing HHS crackdown. Saving little lives, one decision at a time. Breitbart, dozens of dangerous mental health patients went on to kill after being released in Britain. They don't want to offend anybody, so they put them back on the street and they go out and they kill. From the Post-Millennial, Harmeet Dillon puts Mandani on notice after anti-white discrimination policies. Good. Yeah. Mail Online, professor fired over post mocking Charlie Kirk's death is reinstated and given $500,000 towards therapy. Oh, wow. Mail Online, infamous high school shooter who murdered 2 children in 2001 is to be set free after a sentence was erased by a California court. Wow. Mail Online, female prisoner hurled in locked cell at Massachusetts prison after complaining that she had been raped by one of at least 3 transgender sex predators housed there. She got raped, and so what did they do? They said, okay, we're putting you in a locked cell, all by yourself. Mail Online, delighted Seattle drug addicts hail their cool new mayor who let people shoot up on the streets. As woman in lawless city details horrifying ways she gets money for substances. So she came out and she told the police, you're not to do anything about any drug offenders on the streets. You're to just leave them alone. Got some other news. Mail Online. Trump targets Minnesota with new plan to reverse mining ban and unlock these critical minerals. I don't know if you remember, but when Biden was in, I talked about it and I said, he has cut off Minnesota, one of our great mineral resource areas. He's made it all where you can't even access it. He was purposefully doing this to help the Chinese. Well, Trump is going to undo that. The Trump admin and the U.S. Congress, they have to get involved, unfortunately, are moving to crush Biden's mining ban in northern Minnesota. Northern Minnesota, especially the Duluth complex, holds significant deposits of copper, nickel, cobalt, platinum group elements, and other minerals. My son just showed up. Do you know your sister's birthday is tomorrow? Do you know that?
She's in New York.
I know she is. She showed up at the house and she said, I am leaving. And I'm like, where are you going? I'm going to New York. So she's just left, and then we don't get to have a birthday with her. Hey, Thor, do you know what I would do if I were you? I'd want to be me. These minerals are vital for U.S. due to their essential roles in the clean energy transition, defense systems, electronics, and heavy industry, underpinning national security and economic growth. The U.S. relies heavily on foreign sources for its minerals, creating supply chain vulnerabilities that have led to shortages. In 2023, Biden blocked mining on 225,504 acres in the Superior National Forest for 20 years, citing environmental concerns and a belief that the region's economy would benefit more from recreational activity than mining. The mining ban went into effect without the formal congressional notice required for big land orders. Of course it did. Trump's plan will prevent future administrations from banning mining in Minnesota. Zero Hedge. Luxury Ritz-Carlton condos aren't selling in liberal cesspool Portland. Listen to this. Why they even bothered building this in the first place? This was not a smart business decision. Luxury units at the Ritz-Carlton residence in downtown Portland are now being marketed at discounts of up to 50%, and they still can't sell them. What stands out to us is that developers believed Portland was a luxury market to begin with, and more ambitiously, one capable of supporting a high-end mixed-use skyscraper that includes a Ritz-Carlton hotel and retail space. Now, Christie's International Real Estate Evergreen has been brought in to sell the most vacant luxury residences at Block 216 Tower, which began on the 21st floor. Only 11 of the 132 luxury units have sold since the building opened in 2024. The new listing broker was engaged by Ready Capital, which assumed ownership of the tower last summer after the property fell into foreclosure. Why would anybody think that this was a good idea? The building is Portland's tallest residential tower at 460 feet and 35 stories and was hyped up in the early COVID era as a symbol of downtown revival. However, Portland is full of political dysfunction under Democrat control and is home to radical left groups. So there you go. I heard my son saying, yeah, I want to be like my dad. I heard him saying that just now. Didn't you hear that?
Yeah, we did.
From the Gateway Pundit, Portland rolls out paid immigration leave. City workers get 40 hours off for deportation hearings while taxpayers foot the bill. No questions asked.
Isn't that great?
That's why...
City workers?
Yeah. City workers that are not legal get paid leave, 40 hours of it. Zero Hedge. U-Haul Growth Index. We do this once a year. U-Haul does it, and I try to repeat what U-Haul says. So this year, Newsom's California dead last for 6 straight years. Right off the bat, the report's authors note that Florida ranks second for net gain of one-way customers. California last for the 6th in a row. The U-Haul Growth Index compares one-way truck and trailer rentals into a state versus out of a state, allowing researchers to calculate net migration, which reflects relocation trends nationwide. A couple years ago, it was so bad that they had to pay their employees to fly across the country to get trucks to bring them back because they were losing so many U-Hauls. This real-time tracker shows that Texas reclaimed the title of number 1 growth state for the 7th time in a decade. Florida is at number 2, followed by North Carolina at number 3. Tennessee is at, anybody? number 4, and South Carolina at number 5. The common denominator among these states is that politicians are considered more based and grounded in reality than far-left activists running blue states into the ground. Illinois, New Jersey, New York, Maryland, and Massachusetts also landed at the bottom of the list. I wonder why. The common denominator among these states is that their political leadership focuses on being left-wing activists rather than proper stewardship of their respective states. From the Post-Millennial, Trump admin moves to sue windmill company $32,000 for bald eagle deaths. You can't kill a bald eagle. They kill thousands and thousands of birds every year. Some kill them by the buckets every day through these migratory paths, and this would be something that would never be allowed otherwise. But unfortunately, it's a left agenda, and so they allowed it. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has proposed an over $30,000 fine for a green energy company after 2 bald eagles were found dead near their windmills. It was determined that the protected birds had died from collision with the windmills. The Fish and Wildlife Service has proposed 2 fines of $16,170 each, one for each bird killed, totaling $32,340. The agency sent a violation notice to the company saying that it had violated the Bald and Gold Eagle Protection Act by killing the birds without an incidental take permit. They didn't get a permit to take a bird, so the agency is giving the company 45 days to respond before it seals the penalties. Breitbart. Okay, let me read you our title again just so you can... Many words, more action. Transcripts show Trump spoke for over 13,400 minutes in 2025. Talked to the press at 74% of events. This is only to the press. This isn't some of their other stuff. Data from the White House Office of Stenography finds that Trump's over 2,570,000 words spoken through 495 transcripts, an average of about 1.4 transcripts a day, span more than 13,400 total minutes last year. The time Trump spent talking at such events in 2025 is equivalent to reading J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone 33.5 times, Trump's bestseller, The Art of the Deal, 23.9 times, or Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace, 4.4 times. These figures do not account for non-transcribed interviews or his remarks at private events. President Trump is the most transparent and accessible president in American history. Unlike his incompetent predecessor, I love how they keep doing that. They keep jabbing at him, who relied on palm cards and scripted appearances. President Trump consistently takes unrestricted questions from the legacy media. Trump also posts directly from his Truth Social account on the most important issues facing our nation every single day. Quite often, he does it at like 3 a.m. He gets up. I don't know when the guy sleeps, okay? But if he does, it is in between posts, which are very, very tightly, woven together in time. He is a dynamo. This level of openness and direct access is unprecedented, giving the American people a more authentic connection to their president than ever before. Trump engaged with the media at 3 of every 4 transcribed events in 2025. The nearly 500 transcripts include 231 outside of D.C., taking place in 18 countries, 22 U.S. states, and 83 cities. Transparency and media availability have been a hallmark of Trump's presidency, with a prime example coming when he took a phone call from the New York Times. I reported on this shortly after 4:30 a.m., just moments after his admin successfully carried out Operation Absolute Resolve to capture now former Venezuelan director Nicolas Maduro. He had been in contact with them without any restrictions at all. And, they're the ones that are always bleeding out information, but he talked to him anyway. Breitbart. Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Oh, no. Oh, no. I don't know what to do with this. Has anybody got some Kleenex? I may need it. Yeah. Corporation for Public Broadcasting cancels itself. It votes to dissolve and protect the future of public media. Protect the future. CBP's final act would be to protect the integrity of the public media system and the democratic values by dissolving rather than allowing the organization to remain defunded and vulnerable to additional attacks. The organization further claimed that listen to this, it's like comedy. A dormant and defunded CBP could have become vulnerable to future political manipulation or misuse, threatening the independence of public media. And the trust audience's place in it.
Trust. Yeah.
And potentially subjecting staff and board members to legal exposure from bad faith actors. Where do you go with that? You know, I was thinking this morning, watching these people like in Minnesota, they're violent. They're violent. And I'm thinking, I don't have anything in this head of mine. I have nothing that is in common with what they're thinking. Nothing. Their political decisions, their humanity decisions, their moral decisions, and their delusion. I mean, to even say that is delusional.
Romans 1.
Space.com. SpaceX shatters its rocket launch record yet again. 165 orbital flights in 2025. My whole life, we've lived on Siesta Key and we've seen NASA from our house. And anytime there was a rocket taking off, it didn't matter if it was 3 in the morning or if it was 9 in the morning or in the afternoon. It was the most exciting thing in the world to run out on the dock. We'd be like watching CBS. There's a 30-second time delay. We'd watch it take off. We know that it's left the pad. We'd run out there and we'd watch them take off. And it was so exciting. I see them all day, every day, and I couldn't care. You know, I do have our live cam pointed in that direction every night in case one takes off and people want to watch it, which is fun. But it's like watching an airplane nowadays. Oh, there's an airplane. Oh, there's another rocket going up. You know, this guy has saved the American space program single-handedly. Fox, U.S. Appeals Court strikes down California's open carry ban. Oh, that makes me laugh. In major Second Amendment ruling. California, they have to let you carry a gun in the open. Gateway Pundit, New Hampshire governor announces sanctuary cities are officially banned after anti-sanctuary city laws took effect on January 1st. Well, guess what? The lady that just replaced Youngkin, she did exactly the opposite. Her first thing in power, she did away with that and we're sanctuary again. Breitbart, Joe Rogan says drug overdose deaths have dropped off a cliff due to Trump admin's boat strikes. Epic Times, GM takes a $7.1 not an M, billion dollar hit in fourth quarter. In one quarter after EV pullback, China reset. They were making stuff that nobody wanted. What do you call it when you get the money? Rebates, they all fizzled out. And so that's the end of the EV market. It was unsustainable from the beginning. Only a few people can make it work, like anybody, Tesla. Other than that, it's just not something that people want. It's a specialized thing, and you can't force it on a society. Okay, Zero Hedge, electric cars. Now, if you're this kind of a society, maybe you can do it. Electric cars make up nearly 96% of new car sales in Norway. Tesla consolidated its position as Norway's largest car brand last year with a record 34,285 new passenger cars registered, a 19.1% market share, roughly 1 in 5 new cars. He's all over the place. I watched the coolest thing on SpaceX yesterday. Their model is completely the opposite of everyone else. They started out with huge amounts of capital to get going, and it's down to almost nothing to keep going, whereas everybody else keeps doing the beginning model only. And so it's very expensive. Now, individual companies and small nations can rent on SpaceX and do what only the largest countries on the planet could do in the past. Little countries or even private organizations can send stuff up into space with SpaceX because of their model. You ought to watch that. It was only like 5 minutes long, but it explained everything about how he did this as a business model. It's no longer rockets going up. It is an infrastructure that exists. It's unbelievable. Great, great video from ABC. Hochul and Mondani to unveil free child care plan in New York City. Free. Did you know you can get stuff for free? Because that's what the left has been telling us for years and years. It's all free. You go down to the projects and it's all free. I got my free phone, my Obama phone. You know, they say it every week. I got my free stuff. It didn't just come out of the air. It had to come from somewhere. Okay, who said it? Get your facts first, then you can distort them as you please. He's a regular here. Mark Twain. Yeah. Who said that? Did you say it? Oh, good for you. Joan got it. I didn't. You got to be louder with me. I'm like deaf in both ears, and I can't see with my eyes. Okay. Unlike predecessors, Trump doesn't balk when it comes to give us a talk. He's not shy sharing words. Unlike those for the birds, he makes sense and does not simply squawk. Good job. I think that was less. Could have been, I don't know. It's one of the two. I usually just pick one and shove it in there, and they send me two, and I never have time. I mean, we're always long, so got a couple ironies, and we're done. Yes, this is ironic. It's typical of the left media. Zero Hedge German streamer attacked by migrants while trying to prove Cologne is safe.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That worked well.
And then this is also ironic. Mail Online. Illegal migrant has worst luck imaginable as she is detained after running a red light and crashing into an ICE vehicle.
That's awful.
Such is the world in which we live. So from Sarasota, Florida to Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, I'm Charlie Garrett, and that is your CG Prophecy Report for the week.